So let us start with Lab 8, data annotations and helper classes. So in this lab, we'll try to demonstrate labs around these two concepts. Now, before we start with Lab 8, my strong suggestion is to go and watch 3 videos from .NET Fundamental section. One is a video on attributes, the other is a video on data annotations, and the third one is the video on regular expression. Because these 3 videos will serve as a base for this video. So my suggestion is first go and watch these 3 videos and then you can continue with this video ahead. So what exactly are data annotation? Data annotations help you to do validations in MVC. So in order to understand data annotations, I have taken the same project which we have left in Lab 5, model binders. So remember, in Lab 5 we have talked about model binders. So I've taken the same project. In case you don't have this project, what you can do is you can download this project from questponvg.com. Data annotations are nothing but attributes. Attributes which you can take and you can decorate on the model class. And these attributes will help you to do validations. For example, we have this simple customer model here. Remember, this is the same code which we have taken from Lab 5. So we're going to continue from the source code of Lab 5 here. So I've taken the same customer model here. Now let us say that you want to ensure that the customer name should not be null, neither it should be empty. So what you can do is you can go and use the required data annotation. Now remember, to use data annotations or these attributes, you need to go and ensure that you import this system.componentModel.data annotations namespace. So all these attributes actually belong to this namespace. So let me quickly go and import this, and there it is. So let us go ahead and add some more validations to the class. The first validation we would like to have is customer name and customer code should not be empty. So you can see that on the customer name, I have already decorated the required attribute. I will also go and decorate on the customer code property, right? So the first requirement is fulfilled. Customer name and customer code should not be empty. The second validation we would like to put here is customer name cannot exceed more than 10 characters. So for that, we'll go and put string length attribute. So I'll say string length maximum should be 10 characters, right? So the first requirement is also fulfilled. The second requirement is also fulfilled. In the third requirement, we would like to make it a bit complex. We want that customer code should be of format ABC1234 or PQR3457, which means the first 3 letters should be characters and the last 4 letters should be numbers. So for that we need to use regular expression. Now in case you are new to regular expression, what my honest suggestion is to go and watch the regular expression video in the .NET Fundamental section and then start from here. So in this video I will not go and understand, and I will not go and explain what exactly is regular expression, but very quickly, regular expression is nothing but it's a pattern matching technique. In other words, you specify a pattern and depending on that pattern, it will actually go and do the validation. So in this case, our pattern is first 3 letters characters, right? And the last 4 letters numbers. So for that, the regular expression, we have the regular expression attribute. So I can say here regular expression, right? And then we need to go and specify the pattern as well. So the first thing is, when we specify a regular expression pattern, we need to first start with a caret sign. So where is my caret sign? Caret, and end with a dollar sign. So first thing is, all your regular expression pattern should start with a caret sign and a dollar sign. And the first thing is, I would like to say here, okay, the first 3 letters are characters. So it can be any characters from A to Z, and I've specifically said only capitals. In other words, I don't want any kind of small letters, okay? And then we can use the curly bracket to specify the maximum and the minimum length. So I will say here, okay, I want A to Z characters, 3 minimum characters and 3 maximum characters. And in the same way, I would like to have numbers after that, and over here, the minimum length is 4 and the maximum is 4, right? So you can see here, I've specified the regular expression. First thing, I've started with a caret sign, ended with a dollar sign. This first part here specifies that the first three letters would be characters. This part here specifies that the last four letters would be numbers, right? Great. So I'm going to go and just build this. So we have used data annotation and we have applied or validation over the customer model class. The next question is, when do these validations happen? When do these validations run over the customer object? One way is you can run the validations by using the validator class, as we have explained in the data annotation videos in the .NET Fundamentals section. The second is, as soon as the objects are filled in the customer via the post and get, all the validations are run and whatever are the errors are sent to the model state class. Again, I will repeat. When the user sends data via the UI to the MVC controller via the post or the get, automatically validations are run. And the validations, if they have any errors, then those are sent to the model state class. So if you remember this project, right, in the customer controller, we had a submit method created. And as soon as the user goes and fills this form here, if you remember, we had this form here. As soon as he goes and types data here and he presses submit button, it goes and it makes a post, to this submit here, right? And the customer object gets filled. So when this customer object gets filled, right here itself, when these objects get filled, here itself the validation runs. And the validations runs, and the error of those validations are sent to a class or sent to an object called as model state. So in other words, over here what we have to do is, as soon as the user goes and types the data on the UI and presses the submit button sends this data to the submit action here. The validations are run. Then we can go and check the model state here, saying if model state is valid, right? Then go somewhere else or else. So then if the model state is valid, we'll send him to customer view. Remember our customer view? In the customer view, we are just going and displaying the customer code and customer name. Okay. So if everything is fine, I'm telling him to go to the customer view, or else I'm telling him you need to go and return back to the enter customer screen so that the end user can again re-enter values, right? So what happens is, as soon as the object is flourished here in the customer controller or in the controller, it sends all the errors to this model state class. This is a separate object altogether. And over here we have this nice property here called as is valid, by which we can know that if all these validations have been satisfied or not. Okay, so if any one of these validations fail, then this model state.isValid will be false. And after that, so if it is valid, I'm sending him to the customer screen where he will go and display the customer code and customer name. And if he is not valid, I'm again sending him back to the enter customer screen. Great. So let me go and run this application. So I'll do a control F5 and there the application is running, but we need to go and invoke the customer screen, right? So I'm going to say here customer/enter. So you can see that our screen is running there. So now the first thing, if you remember, we had three kinds of validations. First thing is customer name and customer code should not be null, right? Or should not be empty. So if I try to click on submit, you can see that I click on submit, he again comes back and shows me the login, shows me the data entry page, right? Now let us say I put customer name properly and I put a bad customer code. Again, that does not work. Now I'll say here Shiv. Now let me go and put the proper customer code with the proper pattern. So I'll say here IUI 989, whatever. Okay. And I'll say submit. The validation is passed and it goes to the next screen, right? So you can see now by using data validations, data annotations, how easy it is to do validations with MVC. So this is great. Our application is running, our screen is running, all the validations are happening, but there is a serious problem with this screen, and I'm sure you have already guessed it out. The problem is that I'm not able to see the error messages. So for example, if I click on the submit here, I know that this this screen is coming here again because the customer name and customer code is empty, right? But somewhere down below I should be able to see what kind of error messages are there, and then we can act accordingly, right? So for that, let us go back to the enter customer screen. So let us go here, and on this screen, so as soon as there are errors here, he again comes back to the screen. So after this BR tag, I would like to go and display all the error messages. So I'll say here HTML. So we need to use the helper class. So this HTML class, static class, is nothing but it's a helper class. So I'll say .html display dot validation summary. Great. So now if you see, so now what will happen is, let me go and run the application again. Control F5. So there the screen is running. So if I now click on submit, you can see down below he's displaying me all the error messages. So if I go and now say here, okay, this is Shiv and this is test here, and if I again click on submit, he says that the customer code is not proper, right? So I'll say here again Shiv, and I will say here INV1001. Remember, 3-letter characters, 4-letter numbers, and now he allows me to go to the next screen. So by using this HTML helper class, you can go and display all the validations on the screen down below. But again, we have some couple of problems with the screen, problems around the user friendliness. For example, if I click on the submit here, it says me, your customer code cannot be empty, your customer name cannot be empty. But now let's say I go and fill the customer name. Okay, so I go and fill the customer name. So what will happen if I click on submit? The customer name error message goes off. The customer code is there, that is right. This error message is right. But you can see even the value has gone off. We would like to go and persist this value so that the end user can see that what he had typed, before we got this error, right? So in order to go and persist the value, what we need to do is, when he clicks on the submit and he comes over here, right? When he clicks on the submit and when he comes over here, we need to pass the object to the enter customer screen. So whatever customer object we have got here, when there is an error, so when there is an error, he comes over here, right? We need to go and pass him the customer object. So in order to go and pass customer object to this UI here, we need to first create this UI as a strongly typed UI. In other words, this UI has to be bounded with the customer object. If you remember, in the previous part of the videos, we had talked about what exactly is a strongly typed UI. So in order to go and create a strongly typed UI, in order to make this UI a strongly typed UI, we need to go and attach the customer class, with this UI here. And in order to do that, you can just type here @model, type the namespace and type the class, right? Great. And now the next thing what I'll do here is, we need to go and specify. So very quickly, what we need to do is, my team explorer, it's not responding. Okay, great, it's working. Okay, sometimes the Visual Studio just hangs. Okay, so here what we have to do is, we have to go and say that when there is an error and he comes back to the screen, display the previous value. So we have to say your value, right? So inside this value, go and display the customer name here, and in this text box, go and display the customer code here, right? Great. But now if I go and run this, it will actually throw me exception, and I'll tell you what the exception is. So I'm going to go and do a Control F5 here, and I'm expecting one exception. You can see I'm trying to run this data entry page of the customer screen, and you can see here he's saying me null reference object. He's saying me that the customer object is null, right? In other words, he is not sure what to do about it. And that's right. Why? Because now he needs a model here, right? So what we have to do is, the first thing is, when there is an error, you will pass him the object back so that he can retain the old values, right? That's the first change. The second change is, when first time he comes and displays the enter customer screen, you will just go and pass him an empty customer object so that we don't get that error. Okay, so that's the only change we have to do. Now let's go and check if this works or not. So I'll do a control F5. Let us see. So I'll say your customer / enter, and you can see that I see the customer screen. That is right. Okay, so now if I say here, if I first click on submit, it shows me the error message. If I put here Shiv, if I click on submit, now you can see that he's persisting the values. So if I say here something, he says put a proper thing. So if I say here INV, he says no, this is still not right, you need more 4 integers ahead, 4 character integers. I'll say 4 5 6 7. This is right. Submit, and moves ahead. Great. So you can see now we have done some changes to the application. We have used data annotations, and it's working great. Nice. But people say, right, there is always a scope for improvement. So here also we can do a lot of improvements here. For example, one of the improvements I would like to do here is, at this moment, when I click on the submit button, whatever errors are there, they are seen in one go, like a list, like a HTML list, right? I would like to go and see, and I would like to go and show these individual error messages right at the side of the text box, or probably just connected, to the text box. So in other words, I would like to show both of these error messages differently at different places. So rather than showing them in one go, like a summary, I would like to show them at the side or somewhere, right? So for that, what we can do is, so I'm going to go and delete this. So let's say right after this text box, I would like to go and show the error messages for customer name. So what we can do here is, we can say here HTML dot validation message for, right? So yeah, validation message for. So we would like to go and display the error message here for customer name, right? So for that, we need to go and use the Lambda expression. In case you are new to Lambda expression, my suggestion is to go and watch the Lambda expression video from the fundamental section. Okay, so if I want to go and display the customer name error message here, I can go and use this Lambda expression here, and I need to go and use this validation message for method rather than validation summary. So you can see here, I'm saying I want to display in this area the error message only regarding customer name, and in the same way I can go down below after the customer code text box. I can say here I would like to go and display the error messages for customer code. Right, now this makes more sense. It looks very neat, it looks very user friendly. Let's do a control F5. Let's see what we see here. So there our screen is running. So if I click on the submit button now, the screen has been messed up. I need to put a BR tag after the error message. Okay, so that would make things more clear. There it is. So you can see now the error message of the customer name is just below the customer name text box. The error message of the customer code is just below the customer code text box. Must be we can go and put one more BR tag here so that it looks better. Right, there it is. So you can see now the respective error messages are seen just below the respective text box, right? And it looks pretty neat now. So if I say here, if I put these values properly, you can see that customer name error message has gone off. This is here. Submit shows individually about customer code error message, right? Good. This is nice. So now this is nice. We are at a decent stage. We have implemented data annotations. We are able to display error messages in an individual and in a customized manner. But there is one major improvement we can do from the performance perspective, and that is executing these validations at the client side. So if you want to display all the error messages, use validation summary. And if you want to go and display individual error messages of the property, you have to use validation message for. So in other words, what is happening is, very quickly, there is a round trip to the server just to do validations, and that also basic validations. In other words, I'm going to go and put a debug point here. So what's happening here is, so now here, when I go and click on submit, it actually goes and makes a post back to the server. In other words, it goes back here. You can see it hits the controller, it hits the server actually, and then goes and shows me the validation errors. But wouldn't it be great if these validations are run on the client side? If we can go and utilize the power of the client computing power of the end user, which is the browser itself, right? And we can gain performance benefits here, right? So for that, we need to go and enable client-side validations. And to enable client-side validations, we have to use jQuery. So before we move ahead with the client-side validation, we need to understand first what exactly is jQuery. So what my honest suggestion is, pause this video and please do go and see the first 2 or 3 videos of jQuery section. So we have a JavaScript and a jQuery section to understand what exactly is jQuery. But keeping it short in this video, so I will not go into jQuery in this video at this moment. In this video, our focus is MVC. So what my suggestion is, go and watch those 3 or 4 videos at the start, understand what is jQuery, and then come back here. But keeping it short, jQuery is a library which makes your JavaScript coding simpler. Now, in order to enable client-side validation, the first step is we need to go and include 3 jQuery files inside our view, our data entry view, that is enter customer.cshtml. So in this view, we need to include 3 jQuery files, and all of these 3 jQuery files have to be included in a particular sequence. So the first jQuery file which we need to include here is the main jQuery file. So at this moment, I have the 1.10 version, but you can have something else like must be 1.9 or 1.8. So whatever is your main jQuery file, you can go and include that in your main entry screen, that is enter customer.cshtml. So this is the first jQuery file. The second file which we need to include here is the jQuery.validate.js. And the third one which we need to include here is jQuery.validate.unobtrusive.js. So the sequence of these jQuery file is very important. Again, let me repeat. The first one is the main core jQuery file. The second one is jQuery.validate.js. This file actually helps you to emit out the validators. And the last one is jQuery.validate.unobtrusive, which helps you to make your JavaScript and your elements more organized. In case you have not heard about unobtrusive.js, what I would suggest is go to the JavaScript and jQuery questions and answers video section. In that we have one video which explains what exactly this unobtrusive word is and how it is connected to JavaScript. But the most important thing at this moment is you need to go and include these 3 jQuery files in the following sequence. And now the next part is we need to go and create these HTML elements or the HTML UI by using the HTML helper class. If you remember, when we were emitting out the validations, we had used the HTML helper class. But the most important use of HTML helper class is to go and create these UI elements for you, to go and create these HTML UI elements for you. For example, rather than going and writing this input name equal to customer type text, what you can do here is you can go and use the helper class here. So I can go and say here, okay, I want to go and use the helper class and I want to go and create a text box for the customer name property. So what will happen here is this HTML helper class will go and create a text box and give it a name and give the name of the text box as customer name. And in the same way, let me go and use these helper class to create even the customer code text box. So I'm not going to use pure HTML here, but I'm going to go and use these helper classes to create these text boxes. So here I'm going to go and use the HTML helper class to create the customer code text box, right? So you can see now the complete HTML is now getting generated, or I'll not say complete HTML, but the text box of the HTMLs are getting generated by using the HTML helper class. So if you go and just run this, you will get the same kind of output just very quickly. So you can see that those text boxes are generated by using the helper class. And if you ever go and see the page source of it, you will find that he has gone ahead, he has created this input type text, right? And he has given the name as customer name, right? The second text box, he has given the name as customer code. Okay, great. In the same way, the HTML helper class can be helpful to create other UI elements as well. For example, if you want to go and create a text area, so you can see that there is a text area method over here. In case you want to go and create must be a checkbox, then there is a checkbox here. In case you want to go and create a radio button, there is a radio button here. So I will not really go through each one of those UI elements, but I hope that you have got an idea what exactly HTML helper class does. In the same way, I can also go and create this form by using the helper class. So at this moment you can see this form we have written by using HTML. What we can really do is we can say here @HTML.beginForm, and we can say the action is, I think the action name is submit, right? Submit, and the controller is customer, right? And the method by which you want to do the post, the HTTP method is post, and the form, so I'll remove the old form tag, the HTML form tag. Great. So now you can see here this begin form will actually go and create a form tag, and the text box for will go and create the text boxes for us. Now remember that to create a submit button there is no helper method. Now I have no idea why there is no helper method to create a submit button, but just for your information, there is no helper method at this moment to create a submit button, right? So if I now again go and run this just to quickly check if my UIs are generating properly. So there it is. I'll just go and hit the enter. Oh, what is that? You can see that there is some problem in the way I have written razor. Let me go and check. This is tag end here. What we'll do is let's close these into a italic tag, the text here, because I think he is not able to locate the end of the HTML. Okay, right. I hope that should fix it. What is it? HTML.beginForm. Oh, sorry, I just forgot a syntax here, using HTML.beginForm, right? Okay, HTML.beginForm. You have to use the using statement here. I'm so sorry for this. So using HTML.beginForm, and then you can go and put the UI elements. So sorry for that. I hope that I should be able to see my UI. So there it is. Great. So if we just go and see the source here, so if you could just go and see the HTML source, you can see that he has generated a form tag here, method post, the action name, the text box, etc. But the best part is, and that's what why we have done all this jugglery of jQuery and etc. for, is to emit out the client side validation, to take the power of the computer so that we can get better performance, right? So if you see here, when I do a tab here, the validations fire at the client side. This is not a server side trip. Just to satisfy your curiosity, what I can do here is I can go and put a breakpoint here, and let me run this program in a debug mode. If this breakpoint is hit, that means it is making a server trip. If this breakpoint is not hit, that means it is not making a server trip, right? So let us see, customer enter. Now remember, the server trip only happens when you click on the submit button. So if I go and click on the submit button, then the server trip will happen. But at this moment, if you see, I put something wrong here. You can see that it has not hit the controller at the back end. I'm still in a debug mode. That means now currently there is no server trip happening. All the validations are firing at the client side. So very quickly, if I try to do a submit here, you can see still it has not gone to the server side. So I'll just go and satisfy all the validation. INV 1001, all done. And now when I click on submit, it goes to the server. Great, isn't it? So this is much better as compared to the previous state, where we were doing all the validations on the server side. Now remember, it's always a good practice to also do validations on the server side, because it is very much possible that there are users who actually go and disable their JavaScript. So in case if there are users who are disabling their JavaScript, then those validations will not fire. Why? Because at the end of the day, jQuery is nothing but it's a library over which jQuery is a library which actually runs over JavaScript. So if JavaScript is disabled, jQuery cannot do anything about it, right? So by using jQuery and by using data annotations, we were able to do validations on this enter customer screen, right? Great. So that brings us to the end of Lab 8, and that completes our 2.5 hours of a training from the 16 hours of a training. So we have more 13.5 hours still pending, but you'd appreciate the fact that within this short span of 2.5 hours of the training, you are able to create a screen. You are able to do validations, both client side and server side. You are able to use jQuery. You are able to do session management, routing. So can you imagine what can happen after 13.5 hours? Yes, you guessed it right. You will be a MVC superstar. So do not give up, practice, ask questions, call us, mail us, and we are there to help you out.